Snow fell softly over Rockefeller Plaza. Among thousands of glittering lights, Elena Lane sat motionless in her wheelchair, clutching a small card with shaky handwriting. "Merry Christmas, Dad." Tears traced down her cheeks and melted into the snow as if they had never existed. Nearby, a little girl tugged her father's sleeve. "Daddy, why is she crying all alone?" The man followed her gaze, stepped closer, his voice warm and gentle. "Merry Christmas." Elena looked up, met his eyes, and in that single moment, a Christmas night began to change everything. 3 years ago, Elena Lane's life shattered in a moment. The collision came without warning on a rain-slick street in Lower Manhattan. When she woke in the hospital, the doctors delivered news that felt like a second death. Her legs would never move again. She was 23, a junior art director at a boutique gallery, planning a summer in Paris. Instead, she spent 6 months learning to navigate a world built for people who could walk. Her mother had died when she was 12. Now her father, Robert Lane, became her only family. But Robert didn't know how to comfort. He only knew how to command. "You're Elaine," he told her in the rehabilitation center, his jaw tight. "Lanes don't break. Get stronger." Elena tried. She underwent experimental treatments, endured painful physical therapy, forced smiles during charity galas where donors whispered behind champagne flutes. But strength, she learned, wasn't the same as healing. Robert owned Lane Holdings, a commercial real estate empire worth $3 billion. His office sat on the 42nd floor of Lane Tower, overlooking Central Park. He worked 16-hour days, closed deals with a handshake and a glare, and believed that power was the only currency that mattered. Love, in his language, meant providing, protecting, pushing. He hired the best caregivers for Elena, bought her a penthouse with elevator access, enrolled her in every wellness program Manhattan offered. What he never did was ask what she needed. What she needed was to be seen. Not as Robert Lane's disabled daughter, not as a tragedy. Just as Elena. She found solace in painting. Her canvases were haunting. Empty wheelchairs in snowfields. Staircases leading nowhere. Birds with broken wings, still trying to fly. Her art teacher once said they were the saddest paintings she'd ever seen. Elena replied, "Good. Then, they're honest." Across the city, Nathan Cole carried his daughter through the evening crowd, her small hand warm in his. Lily was 7, with wild brown curls and a gap-toothed grin that made strangers smile. She believed in magic the way some people believed in gravity completely, without question. Nathan didn't believe in much anymore, not since his wife died 3 years ago on Christmas Eve. He'd been a sound engineer once, designing acoustic systems for concert halls and corporate towers. Good money, steady work, a future. Then Lane Holdings fired him for flagging a safety issue their CEO didn't want to hear about. 2 weeks later, his wife collapsed. Cancer, stage 4, no insurance. No savings left after the layoff. She died holding his hand in a county hospital, while Lily slept in the waiting room, clutching a stuffed reindeer. Nathan never fought back, never sued, never even raised his voice. He just took Lily and left the city for 18 months, working odd jobs in Pennsylvania, trying to forget. But Lily missed New York. She missed the lights, the noise, the way the subway rumbled under their feet. So they came back. Now Nathan installed Christmas lights for the city, temporary contract work that paid enough to keep them in a studio apartment in Astoria. Lily thought his job was the best in the world. "You make the whole city sparkle, Daddy," she'd say. He didn't tell her that every time he climbed a ladder, he thought about falling. Not because he wanted to, but because he was tired. So tired. Tonight, though, Lily was happy. They'd come to see the Rockefeller tree, a tradition even when they had nothing else. She pressed her nose against the plaza barrier, breath fogging the cold air. Eyes wide. "It's so pretty." Nathan smiled. For her, he could still smile. That's when Lily saw Elena. The woman in the wheelchair sat apart from the crowds, her face tilted down, shoulders shaking. Lily's smile faded. She turned to Nathan, tugged his coat. "Daddy, Why is she crying? Nathan followed her gaze. The woman looked young, mid-20s maybe, dressed in an expensive wool coat. But her posture was crumpled, defeated. Around her, families laughed and took photos. No one seemed to notice her. Maybe she's just sad, sweetheart, Nathan said gently. Sometimes people get sad at Christmas. Lily frowned. Can we help her? Nathan hesitated. He'd learned to keep his head down, not get involved. Life was simpler that way, but Lily was already moving. Slipping under the barrier, walking toward the woman with the fearless confidence of a child who still believed kindness mattered. Lily. Wait. But she was already there. Elena looked up, startled, as a little girl appeared in front of her, holding out a candy cane. Hi, Lily said brightly. You look sad. Do you want this? It's peppermint, my favorite. Elena stared at the girl, then at the candy cane, her throat tightening. When was the last time someone had offered her something without pity in their eyes? Thank you, she whispered, taking it. Her voice cracked. Lily beamed. Merry Christmas. Nathan caught up, slightly out of breath. I'm so sorry, he said quickly, meeting Elena's eyes. She's very friendly. Elena looked up at him. He was tall, lean, with tired eyes and calloused hands. There was something honest in his face, something unguarded. It's okay, she said softly. She's sweet. Nathan crouched down to Lily's level. We should let the lady enjoy the lights, okay? But Lily wasn't ready to leave. Are you here alone? She asked Elena. Elena nodded, unable to speak. That's sad, Lily said matter-of-factly. Nobody should be alone at Christmas, right, Daddy? Nathan met Elena's gaze again, and something unspoken passed between them. Loneliness, recognized loneliness. Right, he said quietly. Then, to Elena. Even when the world feels cold, Christmas is still worth living if you have someone to share it with. Elena felt tears prick her eyes again. But this time, they weren't entirely sad. Thank you, she whispered. Suddenly, the plaza lights flickered and went dark. The crowd gasped. Lily grabbed Nathan's hand. Startled, Nathan stood, scanning the light rigging overhead. Years of engineering training kicked in automatically. Stay here, he told Lily, then moved toward the electrical panel near the tree. Elena watched as he worked quickly, efficiently, checking connections, resetting breakers. 2 minutes later, the lights blazed back to life. The crowd cheered. Lily jumped up and down, clapping. Nathan returned, brushing snow from his jacket. Just a tripped breaker, he said. Elena looked at him differently now. You're good at that, he shrugged. Used to be my job. She wanted to ask more, but Lily was already pulling him toward the tree. Before they left, Nathan glanced back. I hope your Christmas gets better, he said. Elena watched them disappear into the crowd. For the first time in 3 years, she smiled. A real smile. Small, fragile, but real. When Elena returned to the penthouse, her father was waiting in the living room, a crystal tumbler of whiskey in his hand. Where were you? Robert's voice was sharp, controlled. Elena wheeled herself inside, snow still melting on her coat. I went to see the tree. Alone? Yes. Robert set down his glass, his jaw tightening. You know how I feel about you going out without security. I'm 26 years old, Dad. You're vulnerable. Elena's hands clenched the armrests of her chair. I'm not helpless. You need protection, Elena. The world isn't kind to people who what? Her voice rose, trembling. Who can't walk? Say it. Robert's face hardened. Don't twist my words. I'm trying to keep you safe. No, Elena said, her voice breaking. You're trying to keep me hidden. There's a difference. Silence fell between them, heavy and cold. Robert looked at his daughter, saw the tears in her eyes, and felt something twist in his chest. But he didn't know how to reach her. He never had. You're Elaine, he said finally. His tone softer, but still firm. We don't show weakness. We don't need pity. I don't need pity, Dad. I need to live. Robert said nothing. Elena turned and wheeled herself toward her room, but before she closed the door, she stopped. I met someone tonight, she said quietly. A father and his daughter. They were kind to me. They didn't see me as broken. Robert frowned. Who were they? I don't know. Just people. She paused. Real people. The door closed. Robert stood alone in the dim living room, staring at nothing. Later that night, Elena sat at her laptop, unable to sleep. She kept thinking about the man at the plaza, the way he'd fixed the lights so easily. The sadness in his eyes. On impulse, she opened a search engine and typed, Nathan Cole, sound engineer, New York. It took less than 5 minutes to find him. LinkedIn profile, outdated but still visible. Former employee of Lane Holdings, Acoustic Engineering Division. Termination date, December 2021. Elena's blood went cold. She clicked deeper, pulling up internal company records she had access to as Robert's daughter. There it was, buried in HR files. Termination, authorized by CEO Robert Lane. Cause, insubordination. She read the details, her hands shaking. Nathan had reported a safety flaw in the Lane Tower sound system. Robert had dismissed it, called it an unnecessary expense. Nathan pushed back. 2 weeks later, he was fired. Elena sat back, her chest tight. Her father had destroyed that man's life. And she'd just met him at the Christmas tree, smiling at his daughter, like nothing was wrong. The memories came to Nathan in fragments, unwanted and sharp. 3 years ago, he'd been a different man. Confident, successful, proud. He'd worked on Lane Tower's acoustic redesign, a multi-million-dollar project that was supposed to be his career breakthrough. Then he found the flaw, a resonance issue in the emergency sound system, a design error that could fail during an evacuation. He reported it immediately, submitted a full technical breakdown to his supervisor, then to the VP of operations. They buried it. Too expensive to fix. Too close to the deadline. Nathan couldn't let it go. He went directly to Robert Lane, walked into the CEO's office during a board meeting, laid out the evidence. Robert listened for exactly 90 seconds. Then he said, "You're overstepping, Mr. Cole. We have engineers who've signed off on this system. If you can't trust the process, you don't belong here." Nathan was escorted out by security. 2 weeks later, the termination letter arrived. No severance. No references. Just a legal notice reminding him of his NDA. He didn't tell his wife right away. He couldn't. She was already sick, already struggling. He tried to find new work, sent out 100 resumes, called every contact he had. No one would hire him. Robert Lane's name carried weight. A blacklist didn't need to be official to be effective. When Sarah collapsed, Nathan sold everything. Their car, their furniture, his recording equipment. It wasn't enough. The hospital bills piled up faster than he could count. She died 3 days before Christmas, holding his hand, whispering, "Take care of Lily." He did. He took their daughter and ran, far from New York, far from the city that had chewed him up and spit him out. He worked construction in Scranton, dishwashing in Allentown, anything that paid cash. Lily never complained. She drew pictures of snowmen and reindeer, taped them to the walls of their motel rooms, and told him, "It's okay, Daddy. Mommy's watching us." Nathan didn't believe in heaven, but he didn't tell her that. They came back to New York a year ago because Lily asked. She wanted to see the Christmas lights again, the ones Mommy used to love. Nathan couldn't say no. Now he climbed ladders in the cold, stringing lights across the city, and pretended he wasn't afraid of heights. Pretended he wasn't one bad fall away from leaving Lily alone. Tonight, after tucking her into bed, he stood by the window of their tiny apartment, looking out at the distant glow of Rockefeller Plaza. He thought about the woman in the wheelchair, the sadness in her eyes. He wondered if she was okay. He wondered if anyone ever really was. 2 weeks later, Elena stood in the ballroom of Lane Tower, overseeing the final preparations for the company's annual Christmas charity event. It had been her idea, pitched carefully to her father over breakfast. A holiday event for people with disabilities, she'd said. Art workshops, music, food, something meaningful. Robert had agreed, but only because his PR team loved it. Lane Holdings Gives Back made for good headlines. Elena didn't care about his motives. She just wanted to create something real. She also wanted to see Nathan again. She didn't know if he'd come. She'd arranged for invitations to be sent to every community center in the city, hoping his name might be on a list somewhere. It was a long shot, but hope was all she had. The ballroom filled slowly. Families arrived, children in wheelchairs, adults with canes and service dogs. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Tables overflowed with art supplies, hot chocolate, gingerbread cookies. Elena moved through the crowd, greeting people, smiling. She felt lighter than she had in months. Then she saw him. Nathan stood near the entrance, holding Lily's hand, looking uncomfortable in a borrowed jacket. Lily's eyes went wide when she saw the decorations. "Daddy, look. It's like a palace." Nathan smiled, but his posture was tense. He didn't belong here, and he knew it. Elena's heart pounded. She wheeled herself toward them, trying to look casual. "Hi," she said, her voice a little too bright. Lily recognized her immediately. "It's you, the lady from the tree." Nathan's eyes widened. "Elena?" She nodded, suddenly nervous. "I didn't think you'd come." "We got an invitation," Nathan said slowly. "Lily wanted to see the art workshop." "I'm so glad." Elena looked at Lily. "There's face painting, too." "And a Santa." Lily gasped and looked up at Nathan. "Can I, Daddy? Please?" He nodded, and she darted off toward the face painting station. Nathan and Elena were left alone. "You organized this," he said. It wasn't a question. "I wanted to do something that mattered." He studied her face. "You're Robert Lane's daughter." Elena's breath caught. "You know, I figured it out after that night. I looked you up." His voice was carefully neutral. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want you to leave." Nathan looked away, his jaw tight. "I should go." "Please don't." Elena's voice cracked. "I didn't know, Nathan. I didn't know what my father did to you until after we met." "I swear." He believed her. He could see the truth in her eyes, but it didn't change the fact that her last name was Lane, and that name had destroyed his life. Before he could respond, a cold voice cut through the room. "Nathan Cole." They both turned. Robert Lane stood 10 feet away, his face carved from stone. The ballroom seemed to shrink. Conversations died. People stared. Robert walked forward slowly, deliberately, his eyes locked on Nathan. "I didn't realize you'd be here," Robert said, his tone dripping with ice. Nathan straightened, his hands clenched at his sides. "I was invited." "By whom?" Robert's gaze flicked to Elena, and understanding dawned. His expression darkened. "I see." Elena wheeled herself between them. "Dad, don't. Step aside, Elena." "No." Her voice shook but held firm. "He's my guest." Robert's eyes blazed. "This man has no place in my building." Nathan's face flushed, but he kept his voice steady. "I'll leave." "Good," Robert said coldly. "Security will escort you out." "Dad." "Stop." Elena's voice cracked with desperation. But Robert wasn't listening. He gestured to 2 security guards near the entrance. They moved toward Nathan. Lily appeared suddenly, holding a cookie, her face painted like a reindeer. She looked up at the guards, confused. "Daddy?" Nathan knelt down, forced a smile. "We have to go, sweetheart." "But we just got here." "I know. I'm sorry." He took her hand, and they walked toward the exit. The entire ballroom watched in silence. Elena sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. As Nathan reached the door, he glanced back once. His eyes met Elena's. Then, he was gone. The office was silent at 2 in the morning. Robert Lane sat alone behind his desk, staring at a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. He'd sent Elena home hours ago. She hadn't spoken to him since the event. Downstairs, the cleaning crew worked through the empty ballroom, packing away decorations, sweeping up cookie crumbs. Robert had come back to the office because he couldn't sleep, couldn't stop seeing the look on his daughter's face. He told himself he'd done the right thing. Nathan Cole was a reminder of a mistake, a problem Robert had dealt with years ago. The man had no business being in his building, near his daughter. But the justification felt hollow. On impulse, Robert opened his computer and pulled up the company's old employee files. He typed in Nathan's name. The termination record appeared. Insubordination. Violation of chain of command. Refusal to follow executive directive. Robert frowned. Something about the wording felt wrong. He clicked deeper into the archived incident reports. There it was. Nathan's original safety complaint, filed the 10th of December 2021. Detailed technical analysis. Photos, audio recordings. Robert's chest tightened. He opened the executive response memo, written by his VP of Operations, and approved by Robert himself. Employee concerns, deemed exaggerated. System meets code. No action required. Then Robert found something else. A separate file, buried in legal archives. An incident report from the 18th of December 2021. Electrical fire in Lane Tower's 40th floor sound control room. Cause, resonance overload in the emergency system. Damage, $40,000. Injuries. 1. Robert Lane. Minor burns to left hand and smoke inhalation. Hospitalized for observation. The memory hit him like a fist. He'd been in that room when the fire started, reviewing contracts late at night. The smoke had been suffocating, the heat unbearable. Someone had pulled him out. Robert had been disoriented, barely conscious. He never saw the man's face. He'd assumed it was security. But now, staring at the file, he saw the name listed under first responder. Nathan Cole, acoustic engineer. Nathan had been working late, heard the alarm, and ran into the fire. Saved Robert's life. 2 weeks later, Robert had fired him. Robert's hands shook. He closed the laptop, stood, and walked to the window. The city glowed below, indifferent and cold. He'd spent his whole life building an empire, crushing anyone who stood in his way, believing that power and control were the same as strength. Now, he saw the truth. He was just a man who'd destroyed the life of the person who'd saved him. And in doing so, he'd driven his daughter further away. Robert didn't sleep that night. At dawn, he stood outside a narrow apartment building in Astoria, staring up at the third-floor window. He'd never been to this neighborhood before. It felt foreign, uncomfortable. He climbed the stairs slowly, his expensive shoes echoing on the worn steps. When he reached apartment 3C, he hesitated. Then he knocked. Nathan opened the door, surprise flashing across his face. "Mr. Lane." Robert nodded stiffly. "May I come in?" Nathan didn't move. "Why are you here?" "I need to talk to you. I think you said everything last night." "Please," Robert said quietly. The word felt strange in his mouth. Nathan studied him for a long moment, then stepped aside. The apartment was small, barely bigger than Robert's walk-in closet. A futon against one wall, a tiny kitchen, a child's drawings taped everywhere. Lily sat at a card table, eating cereal, still in her pajamas. She looked up, eyes wide. "It's the mean man from the party," she whispered. Nathan winced. "Lily, go brush your teeth, okay?" She obeyed reluctantly, casting wary glances at Robert as she disappeared into the bathroom. Nathan crossed his arms. "You have 5 minutes." Robert looked around the apartment, shame curling in his chest. "I didn't know," he said finally. "Didn't know what?" "That you saved my life." Nathan went very still. Robert continued, his voice rough. "There was a fire 3 years ago, in the sound control room. Someone pulled me out. I never knew who." Nathan's jaw tightened. The system failed exactly the way I said it would. I know. You fired me for being right. I know. Robert said again, his voice breaking. I was wrong. About everything. Nathan stared at him, anger and exhaustion warring in his eyes. Why are you telling me this now? Because I can't undo what I did. But I can try to make it right. Robert pulled an envelope from his coat. This is a job offer. Chief Safety Consultant for the Lane Foundation. Full benefits. Salary. Housing assistance. Nathan didn't take it. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's what you're owed. Robert's voice hardened, not with anger but with conviction. You were right about the system. You saved my life. And I repaid you. By taking everything from you. He paused. I also can't change what happened to your wife. But I can make sure Lily has a future. Nathan's hand shook. He looked at the envelope. Then at Robert. Why do you care? Because my daughter does, Robert said simply. And because you told me something last night. Without saying a word. What's that? You said I shouldn't make Elena feel as alone as you once felt. Robert's voice cracked. I've been doing that her whole life. I don't know how to stop. But watching you with your daughter, I realized something. Love isn't about control. It's about showing up. Nathan was silent for a long time. Finally, he took the envelope. Weeks passed. Winter deepened over New York, and something shifted in the Lane household. Robert began coming home earlier. He asked Elena about her day, actually listened to her answers. He funded her idea for an art therapy program, didn't call it publicity. One evening, he found her painting in her studio. Can I see? He asked. Elena looked up, surprised. She nodded. Robert studied the canvas. A bird perched on a windowsill, wings folded, but the window open. It's beautiful, he said quietly. What's it called? Choosing to stay, Elena said. Robert's eyes stung. I'm sorry, he said, his voice barely a whisper, for making you feel like you had to fly away to be free. Elena set down her brush. I didn't need you to fix me, Dad. I just needed you to see me. I see you now. She smiled, and it reached her eyes. Nathan started working at the Lane Foundation the following week. The foundation focused on safety innovations for people with disabilities, workplace protections, accessible design. It was meaningful work, the kind Nathan had always wanted to do. He and Elena crossed paths often. At first, their conversations were careful, professional. But gradually, something warmed between them. One afternoon, Elena invited Nathan to see her art therapy studio. It was a bright, open space in Brooklyn, filled with canvases and laughter. Children and adults worked side by side, painting their stories. This is incredible, Nathan said, watching a young girl in a wheelchair create a sunset with her fingers. It's theirs, Elena said. I just gave them the space. Nathan turned to her. You gave them more than that. You gave them hope. Their eyes met, and the air between them shifted. Elena looked away first, her cheeks flushing. Do you want to help with something? She asked quickly. I'm setting up new easels. But the lighting's wrong. Nathan grinned. I think I can handle that. They worked together through the afternoon, adjusting angles, testing brightness. Lily showed up after school, delighted to see Elena again. She painted a picture of the three of them standing under the Rockefeller tree, holding hands. That's us, Lily declared proudly. We're a team. Nathan and Elena exchanged a glance, something unspoken passing between them. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Nathan walked Elena home. Snow drifted down softly, coating the streets in white. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. At her building, Elena stopped and turned to him. Thank you, she said. For what? For showing up that night. For not giving up. Nathan stepped closer. You're the one who didn't give up, Elena. You built all of this. He gestured back toward the studio. You turned your pain into something beautiful. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't feel beautiful. You are, Nathan said quietly. You don't need to stand to be strong. You're already the strongest person I know." Elena couldn't speak. Nathan reached out, hesitated, then gently brushed a tear from her cheek. "I should go," he whispered. But he didn't move. Neither did she. The kiss was soft, tentative, like the first snow of winter. When they pulled apart, Elena was smiling through her tears. "Merry Christmas, Nathan," she whispered. "Merry Christmas, Elena." 3 months later, a blizzard hit New York. The storm came fast and brutal, shutting down streets, trapping people indoors. Elena's art studio was in session when the power failed. The lights went out. The heating died. The automatic doors locked. Elena, along with 6 students and 2 volunteers, was trapped inside. She tried to stay calm, but the temperature was dropping fast. One of the children started to cry. Elena pulled out her phone. No signal. The walls of the building were too thick, the storm too strong. She wheeled herself to the window, saw nothing but white. Panic clawed at her chest. Across the city, Nathan was at the foundation office when he saw the weather alert. His phone buzzed. A message from Elena's assistant. "Elena's at the studio. Can't reach her. Phones are down." Nathan's blood went cold. He grabbed his coat, didn't bother explaining to anyone, and ran. The streets were chaos. Taxis couldn't move. Subways were stalled. Nathan ran on foot, his breath burning in his lungs, snow blinding him. It took him 40 minutes to reach the studio. The building was dark, the doors frozen shut. Nathan pounded on the glass, shouted Elena's name. No response. He looked around frantically, spotted a side window. He grabbed a metal trash can, smashed the glass, and climbed through. Inside, the studio was freezing. He found them huddled in the center of the room, wrapped in drop cloths and canvas tarps. Elena looked up, her face pale, and her expression crumbled with relief. "Nathan." He crossed to her in 3 strides, knelt down, pulled her into his arms. "I've got you," he whispered. "I've got you." He worked fast. Used his phone's flashlight to find the breaker. Reset the emergency power. The heating system kicked in. He pried open the jammed door, got the volunteers and students outside to waiting paramedics. Finally, he came back for Elena. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I know," he said gently. "But you're okay. You're safe." He lifted her out of the wheelchair, cradled her in his arms, and carried her through the snow. By the time they reached the street, Robert was there. He'd gotten the alert, driven through the storm himself. When he saw Nathan carrying Elena, his face twisted with emotion. "Is she?" "She's okay," Nathan said. Robert reached out, took Elena from Nathan's arms, held her tightly. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." Elena clung to him, sobbing. "It's okay, Dad. I'm okay." Robert looked at Nathan over her shoulder, his eyes shining. "Thank you," he said hoarsely. "You saved her." "She saved herself," Nathan said quietly. "I just showed up." The weeks after the storm were soft and slow. Elena recovered at home, her father hovering like a protective shadow. But this time, his presence didn't feel suffocating. It felt like love. Nathan visited every day, bringing Lily, who colored pictures to hang on Elena's walls. "You need more happy art," Lily declared seriously. Elena laughed, the sound bright and real. Robert and Nathan began to talk. Not as employer and employee, but as 2 men trying to understand what it meant to be fathers. To be human. One evening, Robert said, "I spent my whole life thinking strength meant never bending. I was wrong." Nathan nodded. "Strength is knowing when to ask for help." Robert looked at him. "You never asked. I was too proud. Or too scared." Nathan paused. "But Elena taught me something. She didn't let her pain define her. She turned it into purpose." Robert's voice was quiet. "She's stronger than I ever was. She gets that from you," Nathan said. Robert shook his head. "She gets it from herself." Spring arrived slowly, melting the snow, bringing green back to the city. Elena's art therapy studio reopened, bigger than before. The foundation funded expansion programs in 3 more cities. Nathan worked alongside Elena, designing accessible spaces, creating safety protocols, building something that mattered. And somewhere along the way, they fell in love. Not the dramatic, sweeping kind. The quiet kind. The kind built on trust and time and showing up. One evening, they sat together in Elena's studio, surrounded by half-finished paintings, the city glowing outside the window. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Lily hadn't seen me that night?" Elena asked. Nathan smiled. "I think you would have found your way anyway." "I don't know. I was pretty lost." "So was I," Nathan admitted. "But we found each other. That counts for something." Elena looked at him, her heart full. "It counts for everything." A year after the blizzard, Rockefeller Plaza glowed with the same lights that had witnessed their first meeting. Elena sat in her wheelchair, wrapped in a warm coat, watching families skate on the ice below. Nathan stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Lily danced nearby, twirling in the snow, singing a song she'd made up about Christmas magic. Robert watched from a few feet away, his face softer than it had ever been. He'd stepped back from the company, handed more control to his COO, spent more time at the foundation, spent more time with Elena. He wasn't perfect, but he was trying. And that, Elena had learned, was enough. Nathan knelt down beside her, his eyes warm. "I have something for you," he said. Elena tilted her head, curious. He pulled a small box from his coat pocket. Opened it. Inside was a simple ring. Silver with a small diamond. "Last year, I said, 'Merry Christmas,'" Nathan began, his voice steady. "This year, I want to say 3 more words." Elena's breath caught. "Will you marry me?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. She nodded, unable to speak. Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger, then leaned in and kissed her softly. Lily squealed and ran over, throwing her arms around both of them. "We're going to be a family," she shouted. Robert approached slowly, his eyes wet. He looked at Nathan, then at his daughter. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly. Elena reached out, took his hand. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart." The lights of Rockefeller Plaza blazed above them, casting golden warmth over the snow. Around them, strangers smiled, touched by the moment without knowing its story. But stories, Elena thought, didn't need to be known to matter. They just needed to be lived. Nathan stood, pulled Elena close, and together they looked up at the tree. "Merry Christmas," he whispered. Elena smiled, her heart full and free. "Merry Christmas."